Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at HIMS and HERS health. It is time for another update. And yes, we are getting back to the regular schedule. And 3 weeks ago, I have shared with you a path for this stock that could lead to significantly higher prices. A path that would have been indicating that a bottom would instead be in, as opposed to following the structure to even lower prices, especially since the structure down, the count, wasn't particularly full. Well, today we have just broken the last level of resistance. We have followed the overall expectations of pushing higher that I have shared with you in the previous video. And you might be wondering, why was I looking to potentially push higher? Well, I can tell you. We already had 3 waves up within the correction I was tracking for continuation to lower prices, right? We had motive waves down, which means I was looking for corrective waves up. Well, a corrective wave would have had 3 waves. We already had that in place, but I have noticed that we would have pushed beyond the previous stop, getting another wave up. Well, surely we could be looking to extend the corrections. It would have been a possibility. But that's also a signal, a sign that we could start looking for a bottom, that we could be looking at a pretty substantial opportunity. An opportunity where a bottom would be in one count or another, and we would be looking to extend without forming any additional lows potentially to new all-time highs. And some counts allow pretty high levels for these new all-time highs for this next wave up. So to wrap up this idea, the expectation of following to higher prices has followed through. Not exactly within the primary expectation of getting an internal correction here, in the smaller time frame here, before reaching the resistance level at the 61.8% retracement, but it has delivered the correction after reaching that level, the resistance level. Still perfectly acceptable. Actually, I have no issue that it followed this path, but it has broken the resistance levels today, and we are looking at a potentially quite bullish pattern to emerge. What are the expectations from a larger time frame perspective? Unfortunately, this is rather complicated. I have several paths. I could see this stock take. I could see a leading diagonal. I don't necessarily like that count too much. I could see a larger ABC structure, or the orange count, doesn't even matter really. And then I could also see a series of 1-2 setups to potentially be emerging here, where the next wave up would be a very internal wave 3 that would actually have quite high targets. We would be looking to reach the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Well, with the current low, this is the white count I'm talking about, I would be looking for this wave 3 to reach $460, right? Around that area anyway. And this doesn't mean that it needs to get to these levels in a straight line. I would typically expect it to not do that. But we could be building something potentially even more bullish than that. So, for example, within the structure I have at hand in this movement, in this reversal, I could even consider a series of 1-2 setups in this area, where the next wave, or the current wave actually, would be a wave 3 that would actually have to be potentially quite extended, given the structure that I have internally within this wave 3, at least within some interpretations. And then I would need a series of 4-5 structures to complete only a wave 1 within the large wave 3. Is this ideal? Maybe not exactly, but as I was saying, the structure is rather complicated. Is this ideal for a large wave 3 in the white count? Probably not. In such a structure, I would maybe like a slightly smaller initial wave 1, then a wave 2 correction, and then to follow up in the actual even stronger wave 3. But it can work out, right? And honestly, the overall large time frame expectations don't really matter to me. I am focused on the internal structure, where as long as I can still follow this idea of an impulse, as long as I can still follow one of the counts that I would have for this move up, I can prefer higher prices and I can stay within the position that I would buy at one point or another, or perhaps what I have already bought. I don't need to be looking to exit every single tiny wave within this structure, especially since it is a bit complicated. So right now, to clarify, I strongly prefer for this stock to extend to higher prices. I don't really care in which path from a larger time frame perspective. I am rather focused on the internal structure where I have a few options. So firstly, I could consider this to be maybe even a leading diagonal in wave 1, then this would be my wave 2. Well, perfectly acceptable scenario. I would then expect this to be the wave 3 to the upside, and I would actually take it a step further, noticing that I don't care exactly what count I have within this initial structure. I am focused on this being a wave 3, and with that said, we can look for the internal structure to identify internal levels of support that would allow me to identify when the structure would start to crumble, when the structure would start suggesting to me that maybe this isn't actually working out, maybe not within an impulse at the very least, and maybe it is time to get out. One thing before I do that, however, the ideal target in the scenario of this being a single wave 1, the ideal target for the wave 3 I mean, would sit at $69, yeah, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That would be very much in line with the structural resistance we have formed at these previous highs. This is actually a significant level of resistance to watch out for. This is a very likely area to expect a more substantial top within the wave 3 itself. Maybe we even struggle as we approach the end of this as an internal wave 3. Maybe we form an internal wave 3 top into the first level of resistance, we get a wave 4 correction and then push into these higher levels of resistance before we start building the larger wave 4 correction, yeah, after having a top within this as a wave 3. So for all intents and purposes, this could be the path to higher prices. This would still imply that we would be looking very likely within this 5-wave pattern alone to reach new all-time highs. So we go into the internal structure here, where I am looking ideally for this to have built something like a double 1-2 setup, maybe even a triple 1. I am not too set on having this as another 1-2 setup. It is a possibility, but what I focus on is once again into the smaller time frame, on this being the actual wave 3. What does this imply? Well, especially since this would be such an internal wave 3, I expect a lot of strength. I do not want to see deep retracements. I would maybe like for the area of support I would track within this internal structure to not even be reached a couple of times maybe, right? I would typically like for such an internal structure within an impulse, a wave 3, to have extremely shallow retracements. And this is the count that I would primarily be tracking. I would expect a potentially, typically quite extended wave 3. And within this structure, we can actually go into an even smaller time frame. I can already start looking for this to have potentially been a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down here, and this could be my wave 3 with a top in place. Now, this is the primary count that I would focus on. Going into an even smaller time frame might leave us blindsided. So ideally, I would see at the very least the 50% retracement at $35.90 hold within this structure. If we cannot hold at the very least the 50% retracement, I would need to start preparing for a potentially larger correction, a different count, and to potentially even look for an exit. If you remember what I was saying just a few moments ago, I actually do not even want to see the area of support being reached sometimes. I might even prefer for this structure to actually build another 1-2 setup where maybe we don't even reach the 38.2% retracement and then build an explosive move up within the wave 3. That is not necessary, which is why I am still allowing this as a wave 4 correction, which is why I'm still looking for the 50% retracement. But if even that fails, it is not going to be looking too good for the directly bullish pattern we have been considering so far for this stock. Right now, this is the setup, this is what we have at hand, and this is the opportunity. No opportunity will come risk-free, and there will always be the possibility of a failure. In the end, this is not financial advice, but this is the setup that I am tracking. And within this structure, what I want to also clarify, I actually do not need this wave 3 to have a top in place. I might even prefer for it to be extending even higher. And if I want to allow myself to track even the internal structure, I could consider even here a double 1 2 1 2 setup, then this could be my wave 3 up. And even this is a wave 3. Could actually see extensions. Maybe this wave 5 would only have a wave 1 of the wave 5 in, then it would basically get extended in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and only then would this as a wave 3 have a top in. We cannot rely too much on these internal structures. I'm just sharing how the market can surprise us. But the current main support zone for this setup will have to be for this idea of a wave 4. And since this is within such a small time frame, it might require updates as the structure further develops. And for now we will stop here, but if you want even more from me, you can check out the Patreon. But yeah, other than that, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.